Welcome, Will.
All right. Yes.
Alrighty.
It's awesome to be here.
Welcome to What Bitcoin Did. Let's see how cool Danny is. Danny.
Yep.
Do you know what style that Nostr t-shirt's in?
No, I do not.
You don't know what that's from?
No.
That is NoFX.
Yeah.
The punk band.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I'd break it out.
Nice.
Seemed appropriate for this for this podcast.
Yeah, love it, man. Yeah, Danny's not that cool. He listens to shit music.
Yeah.
How are you, dude?
Oh, I'm great. Yeah, I just flew in from Canada. It's kind of like setting in here.
China.
China, yes. Super calmy up there.
Bit weird at the moment.
Yeah. In which way?
Well, did you get your license to appear on this podcast?
Oh, yeah, that's true. No, it's interesting. I just saw a photo on someone posted like the Bloomberg on Instagram. They can't even like show news on their Instagram account anymore.
Yeah, Pete tweeted that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's,
no news can be shared on social media in
No, yeah, I think
Canada.
The main reason is basically our leader, Justin Trudeau, just doesn't like any criticism. So he's just regulating, he's making it harder and harder for news to like spread that about how horrible he is in some sense. So he wants strict control over the media, which is, is this like a third world country? Like it seems very strange.
Yeah, well, it's not so strange if you really think about it. He is the son of Fidel Castro.
It's true. That is true.
Yeah, son of Fidel Castro.
Yep.
So he doesn't. Yeah, he has those communist genes in his.
It's just it's baked into his entire being, right? He just can't help it.
It's so funny though. Like you see people throw this commie thing around. Like Lawrence Fox, who I often criticize in the UK, calls everything commie. He's like, we're becoming communists, and I always think it's loosely used.
Right.
But you can spot the early signs of the communist playbook.
Yes.
Certainly in Canada, control of the news, regulate everything. I mean, I'm not a gun person, but I know they've taken the guns away.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get access to guns and
print loads of money. I think if anything, it's more like, it feels a little bit like Venezuela under Chavez.
Yeah, and it's particularly bad because I think at some point we sold all of our gold reserves. So we effectively have no backing of anything. So that's kind of scary as a Canadian. And, you see that they're just, so when they're printing money, that's like, we're inflating much quicker relative to other currencies now. So maybe we'll lead down to the Venezuela route, right? So who knows?
What kind of inflation have you got there?
I mean, it's always like, it's always relative. You're comparing it relative to other currencies. And it's, you feel it when you buy groceries every week. It feels like everything's increasing. There's shrinkflation. Things are getting smaller. And so you kind of feel it on the ground. But yes, I think you really see it in housing prices and groceries and things like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, house prices you see everywhere. The grocery thing is kind of odd. Like you have little moments where you're like, huh? So usually in the morning, what happens is I get up around 6, 7 a.m. I call Danny. I get in the car, I call Danny. I drive up to get a coffee. And then I might get a few bits of shopping. And there was one morning my kids had just come back. And so I was like, I need a few bits. I need some bread, some eggs, some milk, some avocado, all those standard things you need. And I paid and it was like £45. I was like, what? Like, I'm pretty sure a few years ago, I would have bought like half a week's shop with that. And I've got some basic goods here.
Yeah, it's like our parents would have like a full cart of like groceries
for a whole week.
And then it's like, oh, I got like a pack of hot dogs or something for the same price. It's ridiculous.
They'd come home with ribeye steaks, beer and everything. But no, we're certainly seeing it. I mean, it's crap. Does it feel different in Canada? Is there like an undertone of resentment now? Because he's unpopular, right?
Yeah, but like I feel like our population is just so propagandized. They have strict control over the media, so it's people just don't really understand what's going on because they're just gaslit all the time, and they're not getting correct information. And you can't even have an Instagram account that's spreading the correct information anymore because it's now illegal. So it's people are still kind of clocked out and clued out. That's what's happening, I think.
Oh man, it feels strange that it's Canada as well. I'm really fond of Canada. I went there. I think it was 2014. I flew to Calgary, spent a couple of days there. And then I drove all the way to Vancouver, stayed in Salmon Arm, came back via Kelowna. Does that sound right? Had my first 5 guys there. Then drove back to Calgary, up to Jasper, which is beautiful. Stayed up there. And I did it in the summer, so the weather's beautiful. Saw my first bear in the wild, which was cool.
Sick.
Came back down to Banff and then went home, and I was like, wow, what a cool place. Like brilliant people, beautiful countryside.
It's beautiful,
Food was great, good beer. Like everything about it I liked. Everything everything about Canadians I liked, and then I've watched over this. Feels like almost ever since then, this like really horrific decline for Canada that you watch from afar. It's like this slow car crash.
I think there was like this image of, what Canada was, like we're just like in some sense, we're like America, but we don't have guns. We have social health, like healthcare and things like this. And it's
Nice
like,
America.
Yeah. It's like, everyone's happy. Everything's great. Everyone's very polite. And then I feel like the trucker thing really showed like, oh shit, like this was all a facade in some sense. It's like, we had this vision of of the politicians that we thought they were like good people, and realized they're just as bad as like any other country with dictators and things like that. So it really like made us question us like, oh, what are we as a country? Like, what type of people? Who do we want to be? And it just didn't feel like it was a big scar, I think, on Canadians in the sense that they saw who they were deep down, right, when the whole COVID thing happened. So. So that was a scary moment for me to realize like, well, maybe I should be looking elsewhere maybe I should move somewhere else and so I think I'm probably gonna be leaving Canada in not too long and just start going somewhere else and trying to find other places because it was scary times, especially when you're there at the time. So
well, that is a repeat pattern you see around the world. So when we make these blocks of shows, we tend to there's things we can talk about, and I can talk about the fact that recently I've been to Argentina and Lebanon, and they both have this kind of brain drain of young people leaving because of lack of opportunity, destruction of the money, and just kind of general discontent, lack of hope, and so they leave the country. And these are the people who are meant to build the future. And when I hear you say you're thinking leaving Canada, you're obviously, we know what you've done, what you're doing work-wise. You're innovative. You're a top coder. You are like an entrepreneur. You're the kind of person that Canada should want and embrace.
Right.
And you're like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. And that's a really bad reflection on what's happening in the country.
Yeah, and maybe it's like becoming less and less important in the sense that so much work can be done remotely. So this idea of like living somewhere, it doesn't really make sense to live in like an expensive city anymore. So it makes more sense to just like sell my house and go travel and work anywhere in some sense. And because my team is global, right? I have all open source contributors to Damus, and we do have one employee, but for the most part, like I don't really care where they are. Like one day he's like, oh yeah, I'm in Florida today. I'm like, cool, it doesn't really matter, right? So yeah, it's becoming easier just to make that decision, just to not be in Canada. So
I do wonder when the flip might come, not just for Canada, but a lot of countries. So again, referring back to these two places I've been, Lebanon, they've effectively got no government at the moment, and people are just rebuilding the country outside of government. And in Argentina, we know like Javier Milei is leading the polls, who's a libertarian, who's got some quite radical policies.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a very interesting evolution for El Salvador under Bukele. I mean, whatever you think of him, the prospects of the country have improved, the prosperity's improved. I just got sent a like a, what do you call it? A kind of like a prospectus for these apartments that are being built in El Zonte. Beautiful beachside apartments. And relatively, it's not as cheap as I expected. It's like $500,000 for this, one of these apartments. And it's like $1.2 million for like a penthouse, but it is beach fronted. I was thinking, well, actually, if that was Venice Beach near here, that would be $50 million.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, relatively, it's cheap compared to that. But that kind of development would not have happened without this journey through Bitcoin and Michael Peterson. And so you can see that the prospects for a country change under the right leadership. And I know we shouldn't look to leaders to change this,
right,
but it can effectively happen. And I think one of the interesting things about Canada, I've seen a lot of these videos coming out where there was one yesterday, NVK shared of a teacher. She was saying, my parents were both public school teachers, and this is where we grew up. It was this beautiful. Have you seen this video?
I don't think so.
I saw mine. I retweeted it, Danny. You should watch this. There's been a few of them, but yeah, she's saying, I'll let her say it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, put it up here.
That's from TFTC.
I want you to think about what life looks like for a household of 2 public school teachers with 2 kids today. Like, what does their house look like? What's their finances look like? Because this was my parents' situation. As 2 public school teachers, this is where I grew up, on a lake with a boat.
I can TLDR the rest,
Yeah.
right?
It's not like a super fancy house.
And she's saying her and her husband are both public school teachers, and they live in a 1-bed apartment, and when it rains, there's leaks. And she's saying the boomers are taking everything from us. And so I feel like there's this bubbling resentment which I think can invigorate some kind of revolution which is apolitical. Because if you're broke and living in some shitty apartment, it doesn't matter which party you support, you recognize this as decades of theft by the boomers and the political elite. So kind of, I wonder if that might inspire change.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what's going to happen with this huge, like the boomer generation is getting older, and a lot of them are going to start. There's going to be a huge transfer of wealth between boomers to somewhere else. So I'm just curious to see how that's going to play out and like what that even looks like. But yeah, that's they benefited from the huge economic, from money printing in some sense, right? So they just rode that wave, and now. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
I've considered a transfer of wealth that's happening. I actually see happening now with Bitcoin, because what's quite interesting, if you own some Bitcoin and we have a bull run and you 5-10x your wealth, you can say, you can have something that you want to change in your life. Maybe it's like buy a house. I moved house in the last couple of years. That only happened because of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a transfer of wealth because I had the Bitcoin, so I'm able to level up and get this house.
Right.
And I think that might become more extreme as Bitcoin grows more, because I always feel like even though some rich people have adopted Bitcoin, they will, it's a bottom-up adoption. And so we may see this transfer of wealth as Bitcoin grows, where people who don't have much money but have a bit of Bitcoin, they level up.
Yeah.
And as their wealth levels up, they sell a bit. They maybe get a new house, and this. So I've got this like romantic idea that we see this leveling up and transfer of wealth with Bitcoin. But
no, it's funny because I have a similar story with my first house. I had all my money in one bank account. I wanted to move to another bank account to do the mortgage there, and I did it was like a $30,000 transfer to the other bank, but they like screwed up the serial numbers or something on the bank transfer, and like no one would help me. So they're like, "Oh yeah, your money's gone." So I was like, "What?" So I was like, "Okay, well, I have to make this down payment like tomorrow." So I had to use Bitcoin, to actually do it. Like Bitcoin is in some sense the reason why I own my first house. So it's things like that where people realize Bitcoin is just more reliable money for when you're like, oh shit moments, when people are trying to screw you over and people are not willing to help you. I eventually had like a friend in the bank who I had to go contact to like help me out. But if I didn't have that, I'd be screwed, right? So.
Well, it always gets me when people are like, yeah, but Bitcoin isn't really used. It doesn't really serve a purpose. We had it the other day, Orange Pill app. Yeah, they're a sponsor of the football club and they're sponsoring the podcast. Yeah. And Matthew, a great guy, actually, I think we're seeing him tonight. And so anyway, I sent him the invoice and he tries to make the payment. He says, oh, there's something wrong with the payment. I think your address is wrong. And when I go, no, the address is correct. And he came back and says, is the phone number? I was like, no. He's like, oh, fuck it. Can I just send you like magic internet money? I was like, yeah, bang, bang, done. 10 minutes later, I've got it.
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, just like bang, done. But it's not the first time it happened. That happened with, what was that wallet? The Monero wallet.
Cake.
Yeah, Cake wallet. Mm. Yeah, that one was even more fucked up. So they tried to pay us, and then the bank, I was with TransferWise at that point. And TransferWise, they're really invasive with this stuff. It's like they're often like, can you show us a copy of the invoice? Here's the invoice. Can we see your contract with them? So I did. And they came back and said, we don't like this company, so we're not willing to take their money and transfer it to you. I'm like, what the fuck? Again, Bitcoin, done.
Yeah.
And so the amount of times this happens, I'm like, are you sure Bitcoin doesn't have a purpose?
I know, like even sometimes when you go to the bank nowadays, when you want to deposit money or something, they're like, what, where'd you get this money? And they're like, and it's like it's so privacy invasive so many times. Like the banks are not your friends in that situation. So, and even I remember the early days, like 2013 or something, we were, this guy, he was anonymous. He sent us email. He's like, oh, we found a vulnerability in your website. And he was like from Germany or something. Like, oh, I'm like, well, I want to reward you as for finding this vulnerability. And he just posted a Bitcoin address. And this was like in 2013. I didn't know where he was from. I didn't know, I didn't know his name, but I was able to reward him. And like that's the power of these types of protocols, is that I don't even know how I would do that with the existing legacy financial system. It would just be impossible, I imagine.
But you just couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how I lost my bank account. I was with I don't know if you've heard this, but I was with Lloyd's TSB for 25 years. Yeah, since I was like 17.
Wow. Multiple
bank accounts, loans, mortgages, fully paid off, never my own overdraft, like good customer. I get a phone call one day and some young girl, she says, hi, I'm from Lloyd's customer care. I just want to ask you about some transactions. I'm like, sure. She's like, you sent this money on this day to here. Can I ask what it was for? And I was like, no, none of your business. I was like, do I have to answer this? She said, no. I said, well, I'm not answering this. I said, am I under investigation? She said, no. I was like, do you suspect I've committed a crime? She was like, no, because I was like, if you have, you should go through the police. And I'm thinking, but what I really don't want to do is, what was I then? 41 years old, I think I was, 42 years old. I run 3 businesses. I've got 2 kids. I'm a grown adult. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm not telling some 22-year-old all my personal information.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like bullshit. I get a letter like 2 days later saying your bank account will close in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's like nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it. They don't have to give you a reason. They don't give you a reason, and they close your account. When my account got closed by TransferWise, that's when I moved to TransferWise. When my account got closed by them afterwards, that was because Gemini were a sponsor. They said, and their terms of service said, you cannot transfer money to crypto exchanges for the purpose of buying cryptocurrencies. Fine, I'm not doing that. They're paying an invoice. No, that fucked up one is they froze all my money. Yeah,
Wow.
They froze my money. I was like, well, hold on. I've got to make payroll here. I've got to pay for things. I need that money. They froze it for 2 weeks.
There's this like obsession with control in the people in this industry, and I don't know like what that is derived from. I imagine they have all of the power, and they are not subject to these rules. But it feels like you're just playing this game from these people in control, and it feels very unnatural and very uncomfortable. And I've been increasingly seeing as banks just a liability. Like I try to keep most of my money out of banks at this point, and so I just like run my own node, run my own Lightning node. I do most of my business out of my Lightning node. And that's just like I don't have to worry about people freezing my funds because it's like they can't, and that's what it should be, right?
So is Damas essentially on a Bitcoin standard?
Yeah, Damas is
Damas.
Damas, yeah, Nostradamus.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's we get a lot of money from like grants. Like OpenSats has been really great, and Jack's been really great, and we get paid in Bitcoin. We pay our employees in Bitcoin. I don't have any money in my bank account. It's all Bitcoin. So I'm living the fiat standard. It's a little bit volatile, but the volatility doesn't bother me because I realize that it's just the right way moving forward. And so I'm just trying to embrace it and live in the future because I want this future to be a reality. So why not just go all in and just live it, right?
Well, that's what Max Hildebrand said to me because he's on a Bitcoin stand, and he said every time there's a bull run, you regret every kind of pound or dollar that you didn't put in Bitcoin. He said, so I've just done it, and every bull run, I was right, and we can't do that yet because the businesses we run like require fiat,
Right? Yeah.
But I try not to keep in my personal account. I would never. I say this. It sounds so privileged. I don't keep more than £80,000 in there because you're insured up to £80,000. I don't keep £80,000 in there because I don't have £80,000. And if I did, I would put that in Bitcoin because I think it's a better place to put your money in terms of protecting your wealth. But in a business, we don't have that luxury.
Right.
We have cash flow, and the cash flow requires more than £80,000. And we're always exposed. I mean, what I've just said to you there about Metro.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Metro Bank in the UK, for people listening, are having to raise funds because they need to shore up their balance sheet. They've got financial issues. After TransferWise, I actually went to Metro and asked to open the bank account. They rejected us because the company had the word Bitcoin in its name, because we're What Bitcoin Did Limited. But we could have been with them right now, and right now I'd be like, my funds are at risk. And I'm sure there's going to be a run on them right now. I'm sure of it, of some kind.
For sure.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, I would be withdrawing mine.
100%.
Money?
It's so quick now. You don't need to go down the bank. There's a high street. That'll be
Yeah.
happening. We'll have our own BTFP program soon.
I hope not.
I mean, I think the precedent's set. I don't think they're going to let people lose money.
Pain is important.
It is.
I'm worried about that with like my company because I have Nostr in the name. I wonder if like one day Nostr is associated with like radical free speech, and then it's like they can't do business with anyone. But maybe that's further down the road.
Yeah, you're a revolutionary, trying to stabilize the world with people talking.
Yeah.
Dude, by the way, congratulations on everything you've done and achieved.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. I don't know much about your background.
Okay.
I don't know what you were doing pre-Damas.
Okay. Yeah. So
Also, you look really fucking young.
I'm 34 actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Not that young.
I'm taking life extensions. No, I'm just joking.
Are you injecting virgin blood? He looks something younger than you.
Yeah,
How
well,
old are
I've
you?
got no hair. 32.
Even with a hat on, I think you look.
There was that crazy guy doing like the
Yeah.
life extension stuff. Like that's what's wild. I don't know if
He
I'll
looks like a
ever get that.
vampire.
I know.
He's fucking weird.
It seems like it's working though. I don't know.
Yeah, but have you seen his actual diet?
Wait, who's
No.
this?
The vampire guy who
What's his?
injects
I don't know his name, but
like virgin blood into him or something. It's like a fucking freak. You not seen this guy?
Does he run like a hedge fund or something?
Don't know.
He ran some company that was
How would you find him? How do you Google him?
Vampire guy didn't work.
Is that what you put?
I put vampire guy version.
Put, health guy, inject blood, live long. If you go to
Brian
images,
Johnson
yeah, I don't know until I see him.
from his son.
Yeah, look at
Fucking
him.
freak.
Look how weird. How weird is that guy?
Yeah.
Have you seen his diet?
no. What?
Yeah, like search for his diet. This is where it gets insane. It's like I can't be fucking bothered. Like when you see what? No, honestly, you see his.
1 meal, 23-hour fast, 100% nutrition.
There's like a whole.
It's like a regimen. It's like yeah. It sounds very intense.
Yeah,
I think his son's weird too. Why is he giving him his blood?
Yeah, that is
Dad,
weird.
fuck off.
Shall I call Connor? Shall I text him and say, Connor, can I have some of your blood? Let's see what he says. Let's text my son. What's his name? Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
All right. I've just texted Connor. Dude, can I have some of your blood? Google Brian Johnson. See what he says.
Is your son a big Bitcoiner?
He's becoming one. He's definitely a Bitcoiner. So I've got to deal with him. So I put £50 a month away from him ever since he was like born. It's just, I wish I'd put £50 in Bitcoin because he was born in 2004. He'd be a billionaire right now. But anyway, I put it into the bank. And when he finished school, university, it's like, you can have that money. And he quit uni back in April, and I hadn't even thought about it. He just messaged me. He goes, Dad, can I have my money? I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, why? What do you want to do with it? He said, I want to buy Bitcoin.
Nice.
I was like, cool. And he keeps asking me to help him. The mistake I've made is say, no, you go and figure it out. But what I've said to him, he's got like £12,000. I said, if you do it, whatever you get, I'll round up to 1 Bitcoin. We'll get you a wallet. We'll set it up. We'll put it away. You have a Bitcoin. You will be in a position when you're my age where the majority of the world wants to be and won't be, where you own a Bitcoin. And then you can add to that and stack to that. And do you know he works on the show?
Oh no.
Yeah, so in April, he quit uni. He's like, just wasn't doing any fucking work. And so I made him an offer. I said, come and work for me. And he basically works for Danny. And he does he's been on one trip with us and helps with the production. He edits all the clips for YouTube. And he was also on a show with Michael Saylor.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was
That's
really
awesome.
cool. But I think in watching the show, it started to resonate with him. And so he's very interested in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I have a 7-year-old, and because I'm always talking about Bitcoin, and he's 7-year-olds are very inquisitive. They want to learn about the world. So I'm always talking about it. And he's like, oh, so now he's always repeating things I say. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna have a bank account. I'm going to be on the Bitcoin standard. I'm like, dude, this kid's way ahead.
Yeah. My daughter will definitely be more of a Bitcoiner. She's a bit younger, but she's really inquisitive. She asks questions, but she's greedy, like in a positive way. She's like, Dad, if I put my money in Bitcoin, will I have more money in the future? I'm like, probably. She's like, okay, I want Bitcoin. But yeah, look, dude, congratulations, amazing. So hold on, we just
You were asking my background or something.
and then we got into virgin blood. How the fuck did we segue onto that?
I don't know. So I mean, I got into Bitcoin pretty early, like 2010. I just found like the Hacker News post, and I'm a computer nerd. I like to write software. I'm like, okay, I'll download this and try it out. I joined a lot of the early Bitcoin IRC channels. There was one called Bitcoin OTC. And I'm like, hey, I want to buy a Bitcoin. And this guy named Sipa at the time, I didn't know who it was, but turns out he ended up being like one of the biggest Bitcoin software. Like he did SegWit and all this stuff.
Oh, shit.
So this guy just like sold me some Bitcoin with PayPal. That's basically got me into it.
Do you remember your price?
It was $1.
A Bitcoin.
And I bought like, some amount of them. But the funny thing is like, everyone says like, oh, you must be rich now. But in the back in the day, they were only worth like $1. So you would just give them away to your friends. And like, I was giving like, here's a Bitcoin. My coworkers, here's a Bitcoin. So, most people in the early days don't have all the Bitcoin that they initially got. And that's the same with me. But that's, I feel like, why I never regret spending Bitcoin or like giving it away. And like what you're saying, like, oh, when you enter a bear market or when you bull market, you regret spending it. But in reality, like we all just want to make this thing successful and get it so that everyone can use it. So I never regret those moments because maybe those had an impact on, the development and got it viral in some sense. So yeah. So and back in the day, I was like mining on my GPU in my computer. And I was like on the Reddit mining pool or something. And there was another one called Bitcoin.cz, which became Slushpool. So it was super fun, but it made my room too hot. It was like, it wasn't worth running. I was only making like $1 a day, like a Bitcoin a day. I'm like, oh, screw this. This is not worth it.
Just a Bitcoin a day.
It's just like, it's making my room too hot. It's like, screw this.
And I mined with 5 S19 Pros over a year. I think I mined like 0.8 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Fucking whole year.
Yeah, back in the day, you can get a lot, but then again, it wasn't worth a lot back then. So, and then I joined a record label called Monster Cat, and we were selling our music. I think this was 2013. We were selling our music with Bitcoin. I think we were one of the first labels to do that.
Cool.
Other than Imogen Heap or someone was doing it. Someone else was doing it. And
Do you know about Lily Allen getting paid in Bitcoin for an album?
I remember that a long time ago.
Yeah, how much did
so
she
did
get for
50
it?
Cent. I don't know. I don't know how much she got.
oh yeah, people were buying like
I'm pretty sure Get Rich or Die Trying you could buy with Bitcoin.
No, Lily Allen, I think she got paid in Bitcoin for her album.
Oh, really?
Have a see if you can find out. Just search Lily Allen Bitcoin. Because
Rejected payment in
Oh,
Bitcoin.
how much
now
did
worth
she
billions.
this will be fun.
200,000 Bitcoin,
What? She rejected 200,000 Bitcoin.
apparently.
Shit.
and I was running payroll for all of our artists. We probably had like 600, 700 artists. And I sent out an email to all of them. I'm like, it would simplify, it would like reduce our PayPal fees if we just created one Bitcoin transaction with like 600 outputs. And I calculated, I'm like, it's still worth it. So I asked all our artists, like, would you like to be paid in Bitcoin? And almost everyone said no. So this was like 2014 or 15 or something. And if they were to accept Bitcoin payment for all their, they would all have like 50 Bitcoin plus. So they probably regret not.
Same with our football players. I've offered them all to be paid in Bitcoin. And only one's done it. Conor Okus, when he played for us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but they won't accept it. Yeah, so
Yeah, after that, I just, I basically, Lightning Network was just starting to come out. So that was 2017. And you can just start running the Lightning nodes. So I just like quit my job and I was like, hey, I'm going to do a Lightning startup. But in 2017, there wasn't really a Lightning Network. I think I was like one of the first 5 nodes on the Lightning Network. If you look at early photos, you'll see me, JB55. I worked on Core Lightning I was involved in trying to build out the early Lightning node stuff. And then I was hired by Blockstream. I worked for Blockstream for like 6 months or so. But I've always been in the Bitcoin space. And then this Nostr thing just came along.
Yeah.
and it was always just like a side project. I just like, oh, this is like this kind of a fun thing. It was made by this guy who worked on Lightning with Fiat Jaff. I'm like, okay, let's see if this works. Because I've always been like interested in this idea of how can protocols improve like humanity in some sense. Because in some sense, Bitcoin is like a perfect example of this. It's just computer code. It's just a way for computers to talk to each other. It's a protocol. And somehow that simple idea is having huge impacts on the world for people who need this money, like in Africa and everywhere. Everyone needs this money. So I was always interested in this idea of can you apply that same logic, that same reasoning for other things like free speech online? Because we're seeing a huge issue online where people are being censored. Like on Instagram, you can't post certain things or you'll get kicked off. It just doesn't seem like we should have our speech in control of a few corporations are in control of what we're allowed to say, and that doesn't feel right to me. So
certainly. And also, it's a bit weird because it's not like they're just banning people for, say, threatening to kill people or burn down a cinema or something. It's things they don't want to be said.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinions.
There's certain categories of things that you're not allowed to say. Like if you say something that is going to hurt some political party and if they're on the board of the corporation that's running the social media company, it's very easy for them to say like, well, we don't want this type of content because it hurts our political operations or whatnot. And then there's other things such as, if you have nudity on the platform, if you like show a nipple, it's like maybe advertisers wouldn't like that because it's not good for their brand. So, the advertisers actually have a lot of power over the companies because that's how they make their money. So advertisers are allowed to say what you're allowed to see or not see. So these are all kind of like corrupting forces in what I consider just like, why can't we just speak freely as humans to each other directly, like peer-to-peer communication? And that's what I see decentralized social media protocols is just restoring that natural interactions between humans and removing these corporations and these advertisers and these like interests who don't want you to say the things you want to say. Just remove those people out of the picture. Like, let's just start at a level playing field and see where we can build on top of that. So obviously, like in the early days, the UX is just not as good as some of these, Twitter and Instagram, but we're getting there. It's getting better and better every month. So I think, but it's like, it's an alternate universe of like free speech online, that we're trying to build out.
Well, it's a really nice, it really complements Bitcoin well.
Yeah.
if you have free money, then free speech. The two of them really complement each other well.
And since they're both protocols, they can interact with each other very
Yeah.
well. So because I was working on Lightning, I'm like, it made a lot of sense to, I saw the Stacker News model, whereas I'm like, oh, this is so cool. You can upvote a post and they can get Bitcoin. I'm like, well, why don't we have a like button where you can just like get Bitcoin instead of a like, which is like, it's pointless in some sense. What if you could actually get a micro amount of Bitcoin for each post? So that got that idea in my head. So I worked on this spec called the Zaps spec, which allows you to send Bitcoin to people on Nostr. And now that's been integrated into all the clients. So every client can now zap people. You can zap people, send them money. And I realized once I implemented this, there's a lot of our users who are just not really Bitcoiners. A lot of them just joined because like Jack Dorsey was like, oh, this is cool. So there's like a lot of Jack Dorsey fans who joined the network and they were not necessarily Bitcoiners. And I noticed they're like, oh, this is so cool. I can like send and receive money on the internet. And the fact that it was called Zaps, like I don't even really show sats in a lot of the part of I just call it Zaps. They don't even know it's Bitcoin. So they're using Bitcoin and they don't even know it. And then they're like, wait, this is Bitcoin? And there's like that reaction when I see it from users on the platform. It's like, holy shit, this is actually a big opportunity where we can orange pill the majority of the planet who might not care about Bitcoin, right? If you talk to an average person, their eyes kind of glaze over when you talk about Bitcoin. It's, oh, you're just a crypto bro or something like that. But if you just put it in front of their face and it's useful and they're using it and they're like having fun, well, that's a big part of this now. It's like having fun, right? Bitcoin is like kind of serious and like, solving fundamental issues. But, Nostr is representing like, a place where people can be social, have fun. And if you put Bitcoin into that environment and they're going to associate Bitcoin as fun, right? And so I think this is a huge opportunity for orange pilling the planet.
I mean, I love Zaps. I love Zaps over likes because you're actually getting skin in the game to approve something. So like, let me get my Damas, right? And it's an indication that you're either creating good content or you're doing good. So, and what I mean by doing good is, let me get this up. I'm going to tell you a really interesting story about Zaps as well. So if I go to my... click on my Zaps, you know how you can see the posts. And so look, I posted today that we interviewed Fran Finney yesterday, Hal Finney's wife.
Oh, cool.
And that's got 1.8K in Zaps. And the one below is, this was a really interesting one where I was out in Lebanon and we lit the street. Do you know about this?
No.
Okay, so in Lebanon, there's power like 2 hours a day and it's really inconsistent. So there's no street lights. Huh. And really interesting thing off the back of that means there's no traffic lights either. Because you've got no power. And what this NGO is trying to do is just get the streets relit because it's safer for women, well, safer for everyone, but particularly women, safer for tourists. It means businesses can open. So, for example, we went down to one street where they've relit it. All the shops are open, all the restaurants and bars are open. When they didn't have the power, even though the shops had generators, they didn't open because it was dark and dangerous. And so it drives commerce as well. And so while I was there, I orange pilled her on Bitcoin. I went out to dinner. I said, I'm going to show you some magic. So she downloaded Wallet of Satoshi and I sent her $50 in Bitcoin. And I said, watch this magic. And I put the QR code up on Twitter. We got $2,500 in 24 hours. That paid for a street to be relit. These lights came on, but even better than this, these lights came on because of Bitcoin. And so look, I posted this and people like that. This is the QR code, 10K in Zap. So to me, when I look through it, I was like, okay, this is a signal. People are telling me what they want.
Yeah.
When I share a show I've made, they don't get many Zaps. So actually, maybe that's a bit boring. Maybe I'm polluting the feed. People know the show exists. But let me tell you the coolest thing. I don't know if you would have thought about this. I have probably, in the lifetime of having Damas, been given maybe $1,500 in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. That is my giveaway Bitcoin. So when I see people and I want to orange pill them, that's what I give away. But I don't give $5 a time. I always give $50.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, like $5 is it's easy to forget. $50, you can do something with that. Yeah. And so what was really cool, the other week at the football, we played this away team. And one of the away fans said to me, "Oh, are you the Bitcoin guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the Bitcoin guy." She's like, "What is it?" And I was like, started to tell her. I said, "Do you know what? I'll show you." And so I sent her, I got her to download Wallet of Satoshi. I sent her the Bitcoin and then took her up to the bar and she bought herself a glass of Prosecco with the Bitcoin. So we did a little circular economy thing and it just clicked and she loved it.
Yeah. No, it's amazing because there's a few things to say about that, which is, the content that gets zapped the most on the network are these social good causes, right? People want to feel like they are sending their Bitcoin that's doing like, a good cause. So if you're doing like fundraisers on the network, if you're just trying to raise money for your community, if you're just trying to be sponsored to go to some event, like people are very generous on the network because that's what people kind of use apps for. They just, they want people to be happy. They want people to like, they want to do good in the world. And that's what I see. And in some sense, that's what likes were kind of for, in the sense that people like because they want to feel good about sending the like. And then Zaps is just another way to do that. They want to send good into the world. So, so that Zaps are amazing for that. And this idea of a circular economy with Zaps, which is really interesting because it's one way to get non-KYC peer-to-peer sats. And a lot of people don't think about it that way, but in some sense, it's one of the best ways to get peer-to-peer, like non-KYC sats. And once you get it, you want to give it away. Like that's something I noticed so well with a lot of our users is, you received it for free. Like, well, now I want to pass it on, right? So there's this really generous, like giving kind of culture within Nostr as well. So
yeah, no, it's really cool. So in terms of Nostr, it isn't a social media protocol, right?
That is one application.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
But the protocol itself is more than that.
Yes, it's a generic kind of communications protocol that has censorship resistant properties. I don't know if we want to go into like how that works.
Tell me.
Okay. Yeah. So the big issue with the existing solutions such as Twitter or Instagram is they control one server, and when you do a post, it sends it to their server. They hold it. They're allowed to say, oh, is this allowed or not allowed? And a lot of times, so those are just posts, but you can also have your entire social graph. So when you follow somebody, you're also sending extra information about who you're following, who follows you, and all that information is controlled by them. And that's a huge issue because, if they decide to kick you off, you lose your entire social network, right? So how do you solve this problem? So Nostr's solution is, okay, instead of having one server, you just have like 6 servers or 7 servers. They're all controlled by different people. So when you send out a post, you're not just sending it to that one person, you're sending it to like 6 different people. And in some sense, we call them relays, and those relays provide like a redundant backup of all your data as well. And so if one relay decides to censor you, it doesn't matter because everyone can pull your data from these other servers. So it's a really simple idea. It works and has some extra features that allows you to query them in efficient ways so that you can, let's say, only pull notes from people you follow. So that instantly gives you a social media client, right? But that is just one use case. You can imagine, replacing email with it or, other types of communication protocols like Slack that's because all it really is just you're sending data to a server and you can pull down the data.
How many relays are there now?
I think there's like a website called nostr.watch or something, and you can see all of the relays, and I think we're up to like thousands of them.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of the time it's
Are they basically like nodes?
Yeah, they're like nodes, but it's not really peer-to-peer. You're not, so here's a listing of some of the more popular ones.
So 580 online.
So there's like 580 online. So a lot of the time you wouldn't even need to connect to all of these different ones. Usually you'll want to connect to relays that your friends are on so you can actually get the data from your friends. So you could actually run your own relay, let's say, what Bitcoin did relay, and then people who are interested in getting your content, people can get it directly from you without relying on some third party, which gives you censorship resistance for your fan base as well. So this would be really useful if you're like a really controversial figure and you don't want to be censored. People can just connect to you directly, and all you have to do is put one of these relays in your client. So in Damus, you'll see a relay section, and you can add one of these relays, and you can always get notes from that.
How do you create a relay?
It's just a really simple piece of software. It's like a node that you can run.
Okay.
And you can put on the internet. I think even Umbrel has a way to have your own relay, and that you can use it as kind of like backing up your own notes.
And this paid relays, why would you pay for a relay?
So this is really an interesting idea. So a lot of the relays right now, they're all public, open to the public, which means that anyone can just kind of send anything to these relays. And that's not always a good thing because you get a lot of spam, you get a lot of like stupid stuff. So paying it just adds a little bit. If you have a paid relay, okay, you need to let's say pay 10,000 to 20,000 sats before you're able to post here. That adds just a little bit of friction that increases the quality of posts on that relay. So don't get like spam and all that stuff. So in Damus, we have a feature where if you go into global, you can choose to only see notes from paid relays, and that kind of significantly reduces spam.
So what I don't understand is if I think in traditional social media world, I'm following Danny, I'm following you, and I want to see the content from both of you. Is there a chance that if I'm not following the right relay, I can't find you to follow you, or I can't see the notes you're posting?
Yeah, so that is true, and we have different ways to resolve that. So one relay that we have is called the Purple Pages relay. So it's like the idea is that you broadcast all of your profile. Everyone broadcasts their profiles there, and then on your profile you can see which relays that you use. So it's just a good way to tell the client that to know which relays to connect to for the friends that you care about. But yeah, this is like it's not well connected, the network. So for instance, Japan, they have their own relays that you can only connect to if you're in the country, because they want a very insular. So they have their own. They're actually using Nostr to build their own social network within Japan, and that's one use case. So in that case, yeah. So it's not well connected. There's not like a global view. It's kind of much more decentralized in that sense.
Because if the ultimate goal is that this is the platform that people go to instead of Twitter, which I do hope, because fucking Elon Musk and what he's doing with that, eventually the user experience for the front end, for kind of more normie people, I feel it has to get to a point where it almost feels the same. They don't want to have to think about what a relay is. That's like all in the background. They want to know if they search for, Danny Knowles or Miley Cyrus or, the football team they want to follow. They just find it and they just see the content. Yeah. Is that the eventual goal, and it will be that?
I think some clients are going to be more complicated, where you can set up these complicated relays and you'd have different relay sets for different accounts. But for the most part, we can just kind of like an autopilot mode on in the app, and you don't have to think about it. And that's the direction we're doing with Damus as well. Like your client connects to the Damus relay and maybe some other ones, and you can add them if you want. But it's like more of an advanced feature. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges that you face in building out Damus?
I guess the biggest challenge is maybe it's like an education thing. It's just, we're getting to the point now, we're just trying to make it as good as Twitter. Like, let's just get there. Like we're getting there. Cause if people don't like the user experience, they're not going to want to use it, right? A lot of people just don't care about censorship resistance until they actually need to care. But the majority of people don't care. And so we're just trying to build, I think the biggest challenge right now is just trying to build the apps as good as the ones that currently exist. And then the second challenge is just like getting people on board. Like, how do you onboard the whole world onto this thing? It's the same issues that I feel like Bitcoin has. So we have like 10 to 20,000 active users. So we're still pretty small compared to other platforms. And those other platforms still have all the, people want to join the network that have the most people, right? And that's the hardest thing.
I mean, I think it's very good. I'm sorry, I wasn't just being rude. I had Damus in front of it. I really like it. And you see, but my experience of using it is inconsistent.
Right.
Because I think of it more as a tool, as a Bitcoiner, rather than something I'm using for censorship-resistant posting. Yeah. I see the censorship-resistant posting or censorship-resistant peer-to-peer conversations. That's what you get as part of the product, but that's not why I'm drawn to it right now. Right. That's what I'm drawn to, because ultimately it's a long-term vision. I'm drawn to it now because if I want to ask a question about Bitcoin, like a really specific question, and I haven't done it for a while, but I always found when I go to Damus, I get quicker, better responses.
Yeah, it feels way more real time. It feels like a chat room. And I was just trying to think about why that is. I feel like when you post to Twitter, you get put into some type of queue that's like whether the algorithm likes it or not, and then the algorithm like will put you in front of people. But it's not like a real time thing. It doesn't, because people don't use Twitter that way. They kind of use the algorithm view a lot of the time. And Damus doesn't actually have an algorithm. And this is the first thing that is kind of very strange for people, because you'll like open up the app and you might be only following me or something, and it'll just be like the entire feed is just me, and they're like, well, this is dumb. This is just like the JB feed app. But then you got to tell people like, no, you got to follow people. There's no algorithm that's going to put stuff in their feed, and like, so yeah, there's benefits of that. Like, I noticed that people seem to be happier on Nostr because there's not like fight videos and rage bait getting pumped into your feed all the time. And I'm like, whoa, like why are people so angry and unhappy on Twitter? And I realize it's the algorithms have a big impact on that, because the algorithm doesn't care if you're happy or sad or angry. It notices that you're engaging more. So these engagement algorithms are actually creating lots of corruption and bad effects on humanity. So by default, Damus, no algorithm, people are happier, but it's still, people want the algorithm. Like you on the TikTok experience, it's like the ultimate algorithm. You just swipe. That's the only thing you have to do. It's like completely mindless, and people love that, right? So I
don't notice a lack of algorithm. When I use Damus, I don't go onto it and go, oh, I wish there was an algorithm. I follow enough people.
Yeah.
The content's good, but I'm taking from it more than I'm given, in that I'm using it for me more than engaging with others.
That's interesting. I sometimes miss the algorithm on it because I know there's like other front ends, like Primal has an algorithm.
Yeah.
Is it something you'll add at some point?
Yeah, so my view on algorithm, some people say I'm like anti-algorithm. I'm not really anti-algorithm. I'm anti like one algorithm. Right? This idea of like, Elon gets to decide what everyone sees and the way they see it. It's too much power, I feel like, because they can actually start to change people's perspective on the world. And I don't know. So I think the best solution to this problem is to have like a market of algorithms. So I've been working on technology within Damas that allows people to like write their own algorithms, and then you can curate the feed that they want to. And in some sense, it's not true that Damas doesn't have an algorithm. Like we have an algorithm that's a chronological algorithm, which says it puts it in the order at which it it comes in. So it's a very simple algorithm, but we want to add more powerful algorithms in the future just to. Because it's useful. You want to be able to catch up on what your friends have said, and without having to like go into their feed and find So we could do a lot better in that.
One thing I also have been doing, which I know isn't great. Well, so originally what I would do is if I had a tweet that I thought was good and useful, I would post the tweet into Damas, and I've realized no, that's rude and not the right way to do it. But I will write the exact same tweet that I put in Twitter in Damas if I think it's a useful one that I think more kind of Bitcoiny, with like the Fran Finney interview, because I think I'm missing some people who really want to see that interview, and so I use it for that. But I am drawn as a businessman back to Twitter because it has business purposes.
Right, exactly.
So I see Twitter more as a marketing platform.
Yeah. It's like news and marketing. Like you don't get a lot of news on Nostr right now. It's just like people kind of hanging out and chatting.
Yeah,
it's a different vibe altogether.
But I feel like the chat on Twitter is dead, even though it's used. I feel like its usefulness for chat is dead because I don't feel like there's very many effective conversations. It's a place to reinforce your opinions.
Yeah, it was interesting because when the drive chain thing was going on, I always heard like people arguing about it, but you don't get, because I imagine it was getting pumped into everyone's feed, because people were getting heated and there was all these arguments. But I just didn't see that on Nostr because there's no algorithm to like pump those fights into my feed. So, and sometimes I was like missing out on that. I'm like, did I miss out on anything? Like, do I really care? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it was a good thing that I wasn't hearing anything about drive chain. So,
and if I wanted to go and use a completely different platform same protocol, Nostr, but say Primal, can I import everything I've said into there? Is that how it works?
Like import it from where? Like
remember, I'm a dumbass with this tech.
Okay.
Can I use my npub?
Yeah.
And will that have all the same connections if they're on Primal and all the same conversation?
Yeah. So Primal is using the same like relay, because you can set. I think you can set your relays within Primal. So again, the relays are what's storing all your data and all your contacts, so that if you log into Primal and you log into Damas, you'll see the same stuff.
You're on Primal.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two?
It's just a different like front end. Like it's like using, but you bring across all your connections. So you have to use like this. I don't even know how you say it. No, Nostr.
Yeah,
and that's like what holds your public-private key pair, and then you sign into Primal using that.
So, but it's the same.
Yeah, it carries across all your followers. Is there any difference
in terms of what, like the clients, or
in terms of like if it's connecting to different relays, will you notice a difference in the different applications?
Yeah, so like for instance, they can present the data differently, right?
Yeah.
So they
don't have like this trending.
Yeah, so they have this trending thing. Damas doesn't have that yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the cool thing about Nostr clients is that there's this free market of like different experiences that you can build on top of it.
Yeah.
But it all has the same data. You don't have to migrate your data. You don't have to move your data because it's all on the relays. Yeah. And all of these different front ends are just talking to the same relays, the same servers. Huh. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I think is going to, if we are going to win, if we're going to beat the big guys, the big tech, we're going to need some way to beat their network effects, right? So they have these very strong, powerful network effects, and if we don't have some ways to fight that, then that's the biggest boss, right? So I think that having this, multiple clients, multiple experiences, and not having to migrate your social network every time you move to a different client is very powerful, because you can actually, these network effects within the Nostr ecosystem start to grow over time, and you don't have to worry about like losing those network effects over time. So
that's important, but I don't think that's what wins the game. I think I'm trying to remember back when Twitter launched, but when Twitter launched, I'm pretty sure for a couple of years or a few years, it really wasn't doing that well. It was massively behind Facebook. I think its success came when famous people went on there because
Right.
you could get close to a famous person.
Right.
And that doesn't matter whether you love Eminem or some like niche, weird, like Belgium tech artist. And you can start following people. And I think you've seen that a little bit in that you can get closer to Jack Dorsey on Damas than you can on Twitter. You're more likely to get a reply because it's the network's smaller. But you got Snowden on there.
Yeah,
now.
like Snowden's like DMing me. I'm like debugging his issues.
Can you ask
I'm
him
like,
to come on the show?
Yeah, please tell them. But I think you need that, and you've had some wins. I think Snowden is a win.
Snowden, yeah.
I saw the Assange's brother and wife.
They just joined,
Just joined. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it feels like it's going to be a little bit rebellious at first, anti-establishment at first. But I think to kind of cross that kind of chasm, I think it's, do you eventually get an Eminem, a Drake eventually? I think otherwise it really, to me, its growth path is probably similar to Bitcoin and will have a lag. It will be Bitcoin. It feels like a Bitcoin chat room.
Yeah, and that's a huge. We see that as a really big downside. Like
Yeah.
we don't want it to just be the social network for Bitcoiners because we want everyone. It's for everyone.
But
right?
everyone eventually will be a Bitcoin.
So it's like it's a great way to like get normies onto and orange pill them. So yeah, eventually through that route they'll all become Bitcoiners in some sense. But
Are there any kind of non-Bitcoin subcultures growing on there at all?
yeah, so we tried it. We encourage one hashtag called Grow Nostr, which is encouraging posting something other than Bitcoin. So there's like gardening and like homesteading and like just people like working and
Sunning their balls.
yeah, ball sunning is a big one. But yeah, otherwise it's mostly Bitcoiners right now, which is unfortunate.
Do you think the thing that's going to push people to Nostr is like basically getting kicked off Twitter? Like I know Catan got kicked off for saying something about a guillotine. Like if this gets worse and worse, presumably Nostr's going to be like the last place to go.
Free Catan.
Well, I just see it. It's in the same sense of Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, you can, the legacy systems work in the country, like let's say North America. They work and they're okay, but what is the thing that's going to be there when the systems fail, right? So when you're getting kicked off, when censorship gets really bad, we'll always at least have Nostr to like fall back to, or even when Twitter goes down. Like when Twitter goes down, people go to Nostr and like, hey, Twitter's down.
Yeah.
Because Nostr can't really go down because all these relays are run by different people. You can always find a subset of relays that you can connect to and talk to people. So
you should keep DDoS attack in Twitter.
No, it's funny because I always say Elon's our actually chief marketing officer because every time he does something stupid, like we just see huge surges of people join Nostr.
What about like AI? Because that's obviously going to have a massive impact on the like centralized social media platforms. Does it have? What's the impact on Nostr?
In what sense? Like
Can it basically just flood you with bots, or because it's?
Yeah, so we're in a unique position to fight this issue. We haven't done this much yet in the client. So we started to do a little bit with the paid relays. It's harder for bots can pay Lightning invoices, but it incurs a cost, right? So if they want to spam, and so there's two subsets of relays. There's like the public relays, which like you can spam with bots and AI and all this stuff. And then there's like the paid relays where you have to actually pay a Lightning invoice to get on and talk to people. So I feel like there's always going to be like the Wild West Nostr, and there's more of like you go into a nice cozy discussion room where you can like know that there's no bots there. So you can craft different environments that like we can ensure that there's no bots and no AIs.
But I've not really done that myself. I haven't crafted it, and I've noticed some spam.
Yeah.
But
on Damascus.
yeah, but it was in like a little spell. There was like a little period. I remember a couple of days where I saw a lot of it, and then I haven't seen it again.
So, and there's some things we can do better. So, for instance, there's actually only a few places on the UI where spam can even appear. So, if you in your follow list, if you only follow people, you won't see spam in that, right? Because you only see stuff from your friends.
It's replies.
So, yeah, when you open a thread, any bot can reply to a thread. So that's the risk. So one thing I want to do in Damas is have a toggle where you only get replies from paid relays. So that'd be a quick way just to like get rid of all the airdrop spam and things like that. And then also notifications and DMs also have this problem. So you can have a switch that only has notes from paid relays in those parts of the app. And there's also these other ideas of having, like, let's say someone has to zap you before they can DM you. If you get a lot of DMs and it's just too noisy, maybe adding a little bit of friction there would just help a lot for filtering.
It's kind of like the earn.com model, but
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah. It's just like, and it's built on Nostr, so you don't have to use like some proprietary system, right?
The growth of AI has been fascinating. You were saying to me earlier, you've been using it.
Oh yeah, I use AI in every aspect of like even just coding, and whether it's like generating art assets with Midjourney or like, ChatGPT for like, finding errors in my code. Just it's completely changed the way I do
Talk
my
to me
work.
about errors in code. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so ChatGPT is really good at coding. Like I actually got it to build like this like space-time deformation visualization of like gravity. And it's like it knows about physics, right? It knows about code, and it can like code physics programs. So it's like, and not only that, but it can debug code. It can fix errors in your code. So you can just paste a block of code and say, find errors in this code. And like, oh, I noticed this is going to cause this error and things like that. So
Wow.
it's basically having a supercharged like peer program. Oh,
Wow. This is fascinating to have it right now.
Amber Alert of some kind.
It's an interesting one too. You should read
Yeah.
that out.
Oh, this is a test.
Yeah, we all got this. Fuck me. What a thing. This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. The purpose is to maintain and improve alert and warning capabilities of the federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial levels, and evaluate the nation's public alert and warning capabilities.
We don't have that
Action is
in like in
required
the
of the
UK or
public.
in Australia.
We have it in the UK.
Oh, has it gone to the UK?
Yeah, we have it in the UK now.
Interesting.
Yeah. But hold on. So this goes through the network, not because
Through the cell network, right?
yeah, because I'm from the UK. I've got and you're from the Australia, but we've all just received that.
You know where you are, though, don't they?
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's pushed through the network.
Yeah, it's like you're
Right.
connected. We're connected to these cell towers. I'm sure they're sending it from there. Yeah.
That's so fucked up. I don't know if I like that or not.
No, sometimes actually I notice people, they abuse it. Like, even if there's just like a domestic, like any domestic case in Canada, like sometimes they'll just spam your phone with like, this person's missing, which is like, it's important to, but sometimes I feel like maybe it wasn't necessary. I don't know.
Yeah, weird. What were we
Forgot where
talking
we
about? Yeah, what were we?
I think it was AI or something.
Yeah, I mean that debugging code is incredible. AI is so weird because I do love it and fear it at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
I've used it twice today. I've used it to write my program notes for my football team. So I just say, write me program notes from the chairman, include these points. And the reason I like that is I can just write something a lot quicker because it does the structure. And then I put it through Grammarly and rewrite it, and that's great. And then we were doing designs for a new podcast studio.
Yeah.
And normally you'd have to go to an interior designer, but we can do that ourselves. And so Midjourney and ChatGPT, very early stages, are making us more efficient and better at what we do. I fear the misuse in the future.
Yeah, I feel like what it's actually doing is augmenting our intelligence. In some sense, we're becoming all like cyborgs because, all the tools we use, like our phones and like even the early calculators, they're just tools to like make us smarter and augment. So I see the ChatGPT and AI is just like the next step in that. It's like it's a tool that we can use to like increase the acceleration of our intelligence in some sense. But yeah, the asset example is an amazing thing. Like, I used to do game development and I like building video games. And the biggest issue was just getting artists to like generate assets for your game. It's like very time consuming, very expensive. But now you can just get Midjourney to like put together like icons for your game or something. So it's making things a lot cheaper and making things more efficient. But there's a fear. Is like, where does this go? Like maybe there's like an over reliance on it where people just rely on AI for doing all their work. And maybe it gets like, I don't know if we'll get to the point where it becomes dangerous. Like, there's that whole debate, but right now I just see it as a really useful tool.
I don't know if it was like, I've got two things. It was like an art installation or it was a protest. But did you see at OpenAI offices, someone just covered it in paper clips?
Show me.
Paperclip maximizer.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to say is, did you see recently like ChatGPT 4 I think it can now accept images. And people were like posting pictures of a whiteboard with like a design that was writing code based off the like design on a whiteboard. It's crazy.
I want to see both of these.
The craziest is the advanced data analysis mode in ChatGPT. It's like a new plugin. It's like a beta plugin. You can drop in a zip file with like PDFs and say like summarize like the Bitcoin totals in this statement, and it can like it'll build a parser for those PDFs and like tell you anything you need to know about the data in those PDFs. So it's really useful for like data analysis as well.
I got totally baited on this one. I think it's an AI generated image.
That's obviously fake.
Yeah.
Wait, I'll find the other one though.
Yeah.
We have another fun thing on the network. Actually, I wrote this OpenAI bot it's basically like an entity. We call it Dave on the network. And you can talk to it like in a Nostr thread. And it can reply to you. And it can talk to other people at the same time. So think of like when you're using ChatGPT, like you have like a thread, right? It's like a single thread. So imagine at any point people can reply, different people, and each thread can like branch off. So this is like, so Dave on the network, you can chat to it, and it's like ChatGPT. So
Yeah, my daughter had I think it's Snapchat. There's like
AI assist. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it though.
It's creepy though. It's like there's something like this idea of like this bot giving advice to like your kids. It's disturbing.
All right, Danny is showing us ChatGPT now can code from a whiteboard drawing. What's this? You're an expert software developer. This was my team's whiteboarding session for our onboard flow. Oh, fuck.
It can understand the image?
Yeah.
Oh, it's written all the HTML and CSS.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's a little bit insane.
I think I saw another one where they took a Figma file and they generated like a website from the Figma or something.
I don't even know what a Figma file is.
It's like a designer tool.
Got you.
That's a big thing. It's like designers will make a design and you're like, oh shit, now I have to actually code up a website and actually do all the CSS and stuff. Huh. But now I think AI will probably just do that automatically.
So I'm getting my daughter to use AI. So it's been banned. They've been told they can't use it for school, and I'm like, fuck that, use it.
That's dumb.
like just do not listen to that. So she was having she had to do some work all about the Industrial Revolution, what caused it, and she had to pick one of the 20 reasons and write about it. But capitalism was missing there. I said, no, the main driver of the Industrial Revolution was capitalism. So I told her about it, and she came down to she'd work. She just literally copied off the internet what capitalism is. So I was like, darling, this is really obviously copied off the internet. So I was like, watch this.
Get better at cheating.
Let's do it here. Let's do it here. So I'll show you what actually happened. Get ChatGPT up, and then get a definition of capitalism. And so, right, okay. So that was kind of like listening to what got, and I was like, it's so obviously written. So copy and paste that into, and yeah, right.
You know, you don't need to do that. It knows what it said to you.
Oh, right. So then just put rewrite like a teenager has written it. But this didn't actually work. Because it was like, look, capitalism is like this economic thing where people own stuff. No. So that doesn't work. So again, but put rewrite for homework so that the teacher does not know it was copied off the internet. So this is what we went through. All right, here we go. So it just rewrote it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think we went through a process of saying, like, make it sound like somebody younger wrote it. So
it's going to get pretty hard for, if I had this tool when I was a kid at school, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd be passing all my classes. It's insane.
But this is what I said to her. I was like, I'm going to justify why you can ignore the teachers here. Okay. The reason you can ignore the teachers is I'm using this for work. It's given me a competitive advantage. I said, when you leave school in 5 years, this stuff's going to be insane. If you leave school knowing how to use this stuff to do much better work, you're more employable. You, to me, are more employable. So ignore the teachers, and if you get in trouble, tell me and I'll talk to them.
I think the teachers are going to need to just embrace it and just find creative ways to incorporate it into learning instead of just treating it as like a problem.
So that one detected it.
Yeah.
So how does it detect something?
I would imagine what you would just do is, how would it do it?
Hold on, go back and ask it to write it so it can't be detected by AI.
Okay, there are other tools that you can like paste it into and say, write this so it's not detected.
Yeah, so write this so it cannot be detected by AI.
How would it?
Right.
Let's see if it passes.
No, you don't want that first bit.
Yeah.
You basically have to make it sound dumber or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
But it's super interesting, and we're more productive. You're more productive.
Yeah.
We can do more. But I have that thing in the back of my mind is like a lot of jobs being wiped out very quickly.
Yeah.
There's the interesting thing. Have you seen the Spotify thing?
Which one?
Spotify and AI.
No.
Holy shit! You got to bring this up. This is the coolest AI thing I've seen. And so this is a tool that we're going to use. If you're probably better looking for it on Twitter, Danny, because you'll find the video.
Okay.
So if you go to, it's still fucking Twitter. I wonder if it's still calling Twitter in like a decade.
I'm calling it Twitter until I die. I don't care.
This one.
Yeah.
Diary CEO.
Yeah. So if you bring that up, watch this. You need the.
Oh, that's pretty important.
When you say the word toxicity, how are you defining that? You're saying like toxic chemicals. que introducimos en nuestras vidas, en nuestra piel, consumimos,
Wow.
inhalamos, tenemos a nuestro alrededor y que están en nuestros alimentos, etc.
How do you think? O sea, a modo de consejo, ya que lo estamos platicando.
That is crazy.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
That is crazy. And it's like sounds like his voice too.
Yeah, and the mouse moves. So yeah, no, they do it in your voice.
Yeah.
And so as soon as this is publicly available, suddenly our show, which is
Available to
in
everyone,
English,
yeah.
is available every language in the world to everyone. And that's really interesting because we've had so many times people have written to us and said, can you do it with Spanish subtitles?
Yeah.
We just haven't got around to it. But now just upload, up it goes. It's in every language in the world.
And Spanish is one of those things. It's like, you know, there's so many speakers. And I think I remember watching a clip from like Mr. Beast. He said like he just made a channel for like
I saw that. I
Spanish.
think he said it on the Rogan podcast that he was on.
Yeah. And then he just like the amount of views he just got from that alone has just made so much sense.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, so now you can do it automatically. That's like insane.
Amazing.
Yeah. So like, I really like it. I do fear this mass wipeout of jobs in certain things. Like, I don't know what the impact of translation is. All the people who used to do translations now don't have a job. And, you know, all the people who used to do artwork now don't have a job. So I do worry about that. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But there is a bigger fear with AI. Danny was talking about this to me earlier. And I wonder if this is something Nostr will solve. So people have actually, let's talk about multiple scenarios. Someone can use AI to phone up my kids, pretend it's me, augment my voice, and say to them,
Wow.
you know, oh, are you at home or whatever, or phone up, Danny's wife and say, can you, whatever, I need my private keys, can you send them across?
Right.
Or even when they can do it on video, because we know it's coming. If you've got a multi-sig solution with an Unchained or a Casarin, if you lose a key, you have to go through an online, they check it's you. Well, how will they know it's you?
You're more vulnerable to this than almost anyone as well.
Yeah.
It's like 700 episodes, 2 hours long of your voice.
Voice
and
and face. So,
Yeah.
so you can create that. But then also, what if you want to cancel someone? What if someone makes a video of me doing some weird shit
Right.
and puts up on the internet? So there's all these risks with AI. And I'm wondering whether we're going to end up having using public-private keys to validate. Can
Everything.
Can it go into a phone so it confirms that is you talking?
No, yeah. So I think cryptography there's so many things we could be doing with cryptography that we're not even doing. Imagine if there was like think of like a hardware device that had a screen on it, and I could actually verify that the signal that you're seeing is coming from your public key. Like, so imagine like every frame is signed by your, so you have some hardware device or something that's like creating the recording on your camera. And then, so you'd have end-to-end like valid, verification that it's actually, that signal's actually from you. I think we're probably going to start seeing technology like that pretty soon, because we're going to need it because that is a very scary scenario. What you're describing is like, so yeah, cryptography is probably the only way to deal with it.
Yeah, I think you're going to need a lot of things. I think a career risk. Were you someplace doing something you were accused of? Did that video that includes you, was it you? Can someone be you? I almost feel like you need almost like some kind of technology, which is your alibi. That's like tracking where you are to prove where you are at certain points, if required.
Right.
I don't know, all kinds of stuff. But it does. It's not just me. Fuck me. I'm like a nobody with a nerd podcast. There are famous people everywhere who are going to be in positions where they've got career risk. Politicians, well, fuck them. But politicians, musicians, actors, anyone.
It's going to create a world where basically you can't really trust anything you see or hear if it gets really good. So then you're going to need some level of verification from anything you see, and it's got to be signed by their key. Otherwise, it's just like you can't trust anything.
Do you think Nostr will be something that could happen with?
Well, that's in some sense, you have verification on your client that the messages you see are from that person, because every node is signed using their key. So as long as you're following them and you verify that you're actually following that public key, it can get tricky where if you haven't verified their key out of bound or something, then someone could be pretending to be you, but it might not be their key. So like that key technology is very important for end-to-end to like verifying messages.
And they've banned it in the UK.
Yep.
They ban what?
End-to-end encryption, effectively. They've
Good luck
passed
to
an
that.
online safety bill, and
It's just like ridiculous.
well, they've said that any like Signal-like app that operates in the App Store has to have a backdoor, or it's going to be banned.
Well, that's interesting.
So Signal have said they're going to leave.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Damas
'Cause,
as
I mean,
well, because we have end-to-end encrypted DMs. So
I've got a question about DM. We'll come back to that because I think
Yeah.
this is an interesting point. But like, if you can't ban end-to-end encryption. Like you can use it on your computer, they're never going to get rid of that, but they
Right.
can make it really hard to use on your phone. And like if Signal have specifically said, the CEO, I can't remember her name, has specifically said if they actually start enforcing this, we're just out, which is a huge loss to the UK.
Yeah. That's what you're going to see is it's just not enforceable. Unless people you just have to leave because there's no way, like you're not going to backdoor your encryption, right?
Yeah.
Do we know the specific legislation, what it actually says? Because you have end-to-end encryption in your browser.
Right.
Let's bring it up.
Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't got it in Canada. We beat you to it.
That's impressive.
I think Trudeau will be invigorated by that.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing that came up is, am I going to have, like, how am I going to enforce banning news things because I'm operating in Canada, in theory, if you're a news account on Nostr, like, it's like, I can't censor you. I can't remove you from the network. So what do I do in that situation, right?
So what does that mean? They have to ban you?
Yeah, in some sense, it's like the existence of Nostr is like, it makes their legislation makes it not make sense because, it's censorship resistant. So we can't say what's allowed or not allowed. It's the same thing with a web browser. It's like, so I think on the web, you can still go to Bloomberg News on your web browser because they can't do anything about that, right? But they can only target these social media apps like Instagram and things like that.
And I wonder who the issue is. Is it you or is it Nostr?
Yeah, it's the thing because like there's going to be a lot of other apps that are going to display the same content, so they're going to have to go after every other app that does it. Like it's I don't know. I don't know what maybe they'll just ignore us.
All right, so the bill empowers Ofcom to order online services to use accredited technology.
Read
off.
backdoor.
Yeah, in other words, government-approved software to find child abuse images. Like, look, let's be honest. This is an issue, and we want it solved. Or this is not the way.
Yeah, I think the important thing is they're clearly using that to like rile up emotion and be like, well, of course we want to get rid of that, but
those orders can be issued against online services that use end-to-end encryption, meaning they currently don't have any technical way to inspect user messages. This part of the bill is a clear push by the bill sponsors to get companies to either abandon or compromise their encryption systems. Unfortunately, we've seen this pattern before. Unable to get public support for the idea of police scanning every message online, some lawmakers and liberal democracies have turned to workarounds. They've claimed certain types of encryption backdoors and needing to inspect files for the worst crimes like child abuse. And they've claimed falsely that certain methods of inspecting user files and messages like client-side scanning don't break encryption at all. We saw this in the US in 2020 with the Earn It Act, last year with Apple's proposed client-side scanner system, and this year with a similar proposed system proposed in the EU.
This article was written before the bill passed, but this is actually now passed.
Yeah, I think the client-side scanning, it makes the most sense. Like, we're going to add this feature in DOMIS, which is just really to protect, we are 17 plus on the App Store, but, part of the App Store guidelines, you still have to make it, because there's a chance that kids can go on the app and see stuff, right? So they have this technology in Apple, which allows you to automatically detect these images, CSAM and things like that. So there's no reason why we couldn't just provide that as an option. Just to, when you can turn it on, and then the app will detect if it's bad stuff, and you can blur it out. Or but that seems to be the way to go versus like backdooring encryption. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Have you had any issues with the App Store?
I've had lots of issues with the App Store.
Oh, really?
My history with the App Store has been very colorful. So we launched the app, I think, in February, and 2 days after we launched it, mainland China banned our app. So now I put banned in China on my profile now because I'm sure if I ever go there, I'm going to be like interrogated or something. So they recognized very quickly that it was a threat to their control on free speech, which was interesting.
That's got to be chalked up as a massive win, though.
That was awesome. I like put that on. Like I have like the note from their cybersecurity team in China. I'm like, I'll put that on my wall. And then. So that was like, oh, okay. Well, I see I'm going to get pushback when I'm pushing out this new technology. And the next big thing was Apple told me I couldn't have a Zap button on the post.
Payments. I remember now.
Yeah. So they said that they don't want to encourage sale of digital content. If you have a Zap button associated with a post, they say that is potentially associating that with sales of digital content. So if you make a post saying I'm selling, this shirt, Zap me and I'll send you a shirt, that is potentially like. So I was trying to make the argument that
and were they banning that because they want a cut of that within their like sort of terms of service?
That's, I mean, so yeah, so they have this policy where all digital sales, they get to take 30%.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Which is insane.
That's what Fortnite have been fighting about for ages,
Yeah.
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so they want that cut, and they see this technology as a threat to that, so they're like, you need to use Apple Pay for Zaps. I'm like, well, it's not, how am I supposed to do that? Like, you can't do peer-to-peer tipping with Apple Pay. Anyway, so they made me remove it.
Can't you get Apple Pay to add Bitcoin?
Sorry?
Can't you get Apple Pay to add Lightning?
I know, that's what I suggest. I'm like, if you guys really want to think different and, do something that will be a huge win, is if you guys could just integrate Lightning into Apple Pay, and then I would be sure I'll give you 30%, like, as long as people can still zap posts, right? So you can still zap people's profiles in Damus. You're allowed to do direct to, and I'm pretty sure that's why Twitter only has it on the profile and not on the post, because you're just not allowed to have it on the post.
So what are the zaps I'm getting now? They're the ones via Google?
Yeah, so people from like Android and on the dev version, of Damus, it's unlocked, so if you can run it on your desktop, people zapping from their desktop and things like that. And that's why it's good that this was built on a protocol and not some proprietary system, because Apple can't ban zaps. It's like trying to ban information, right?
So you can still zap on other applications on Apple. Why have they?
Oh, yeah. That's another thing about their app review, is that they just apply their rules inconsistently.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I think Plebster had it for a while, and then they got shut down. And then
I don't want to get them in trouble with Apple, but you can definitely still do it on Primal.
yeah, Primal. I don't know how they're doing it.
But they'll eventually, they want to
not
catch
big enough
everyone.
yet. Yeah. So they're all gonna. So I was trying to think of other ways to get around it, like maybe, you treat, because you're allowed to do things like, have an in-game currency, and then if you buy an in-game currency with Apple Pay, and that you can then transfer it to people. So if you just treat Zaps like an in-game currency, maybe you'd buy Sats with like an Apple Pay. That would be one potential way to get around it.
But with a 30% tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fuck them. I just don't like that.
Well, this idea that they think they deserve like 30% of all like digital transaction, that's like
It's
an
a huge
insane
amount.
tax. It's like,
Yeah.
and a lot of these people, they're just trying to like raise, I can't actually implement really important features that I want to do, like features that will actually hopefully create a lot of good in the world. Like this idea called the Zap Raiser, which is, imagine if you're trying to build a well in your town in like Africa, and you want to raise money from everyone around the world. Now Apple's saying they deserve 30% of every donation to that building of the well. So it's like,
Is that like a GoFundMe almost?
yeah. So it's like, if you think about it, all you need to do to implement that is every time you have a target, let's say you have like 100,000 sats, and then every zap counts toward that bar that increases. That's all a Zap Raiser is.
Can you do that in the profile somehow? You create a profile that is but then you
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Then the profile becomes the content, and
I'm surprised they haven't had like an antitrust.
well,
lawsuit on
Epic
this.
Games was suing them, and
Yeah.
they made some headway, but it's like they have so many lawyers, and they're like $1 trillion corporation, and they have a lot they have a lot of power.
But
even
hopefully
over
it sets some
governments.
precedent for you.
Hey,
Hopefully it will set a precedent for you, though, rather than like, you're obviously not going to pursue it legally, but that might be a win.
yeah. I mean, the thing that I was just trying to do is like when they were doing this, I was at the Oslo Freedom Forum, and I was talking to people on the ground who like need this technology, and they're like just to survive in their country, whether they're in Russia or Ukraine and I was almost want to make the humanitarian case of like, why are you blocking this new technology, which is potentially helping these people and people who need it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
They don't care.
They don't care. They're too big, right? They're like, whatever.
Oh man.
So one question on DMs. I can't exactly remember, but there was an issue, right, in terms of, was there a privacy issue with DMs on Nostr?
Which on Nostr?
And with DMs specifically?
Yeah, so everything on Nostr it's a very public network. It's not really built with privacy consideration. So whenever you DM someone, it is a note that everyone can see that you DM them, but it's encrypted end to end, right? So you can actually log into someone's account and see everyone they've DM'd. You just can't see the messages. So that's why like I've been making this argument. I think Fiat Jeff has been making it as well, that we probably shouldn't be doing DMs on Nostr for people, because people don't know that it's not private.
Yeah.
So we were looking at other ways to add privacy to the protocol. I thought one cool idea would just be, and maybe it's too technical, but there's ways you can make it more private, but we're not there yet right now. So I think this idea of, the ways that I think that Nostr can win, getting famous people on it is really important, but there's this really powerful thing where if you want to build a new experience on Nostr and you want to build a new application, you don't have to worry about building your the network effects. You don't have to worry about like getting all these users to use your app. You basically inherit the network effects from from the existing network. So I think this is a really powerful idea. So if you want to build like the next Slack, if you want to build the next, mail client, if you want to build the next whatever experience, you have this huge benefit of having the existing people there. And we're already starting to see this in, I think Mutiny Wallet added npubs, and so you can see people's because one thing that's on a profile is like their LN URL address, so you can zap people. So now Nostr is actually becoming like an address book for zapping or sending people Lightning, which any application can integrate with. So I think one way that we might actually win on this against the big tech is just more and more applications being built out on this platform, and then building those network effects so that every new app is getting more and more and more people in. So I think that's like an underappreciated aspect of this protocol, which could be very powerful and could really steamroll. So
can you use Damus in the browser?
No, so
it's down at the moment, isn't it?
I used to have something called Damus Web, but then there was like cross-site scripting attacks, and it just reminded me why I hate developing on the web. So I think Nostr allows us to build like native clients again. Like we don't have to build on the web. So I've been very much like anti-web.
But there was an issue with people trying to steal private keys from it.
Yeah.
Could you not do it now with that like Nostr 2x thing?
Yeah.
Because that's segregating the keys away.
The reason I bring it up is I'm on my laptop all day. I don't use Twitter on my phone in the day. Use it in the browser. I would naturally just have a Damus tab open if it existed, and I would be using it more.
And there's so many good web clients. So my favorite ones are snort.social. There's Coracle. So I just let those guys are better at web dev stuff. And it really shows the benefit of the protocol. It's like you should be able to use all these different clients and they all work together.
Yeah.
You can have it like as an app from the App Store too, Damus. So
it's more like the tab.
Yeah,
it's just there.
And you can get the desktop client as well for Damus that works on laptop.
Well, congratulations. Honestly, amazing work. I feel like a duty to use it more, and I will try and use it more. And I do love what you've built. Sometimes I'm a bit like, is this just a tool for nerds? But like, will it grow? But I do, when I'm on it, I feel better. I get less shit on there than I do on Twitter. I think the signal's good. The level of conversations are great. So congratulations. And if we can do anything to help you in the future, just let us know. We're available to you. And do you want to send anyone anywhere?
Sure. Yeah. If you want to, check out Damus, you just go to damus.io, try out the app if you're on Apple. But yeah, try it out.
Well, thanks, man. Listen, good luck and stay in touch. Anything you need, just reach out to us.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.